Welcome to another video, Make It Songbringer. Look how dirty my desktop is. This is unacceptable. The reason it's so dirty is because I'm in the process of releasing a part of the major update. So the charged attack has been unleashed. It is now up on Steam. You can play this as the main default version of Songbringer. You get the charged attack. There's also the parry ability, and then there's also the shirt armor. There's also the ferret drones where you can get 100% items by, it helps you find 100% items. So, all the other the rest of the content, there's a new boss coming. There's, a new like dungeon area where you fight these waves of enemies. There's this ring item which adds all these special attacks to all the bosses. There's two new craftable items. There's the hyper boots and the flamethrower. All that stuff's coming soon, and it will be synchronously released on all platforms, including the PS4 and Xbox versions. Thank you, Tabin. I appreciate it, man. How are you doing today? So today's mission is to play through this new update and just make sure everything's cool. What I typically do is sometimes I call it a mulligan, where like if I find a really bad bug, I'll just update the game without telling anybody. So like mulligan. But yeah, usually I haven't found those recently, so that's cool. That's a lie. Actually, the last update, I did find a mulligan. I was like, mulligan! So, yeah, so I'm going to play through the game. I'm going to get it set up in a windowed mode so we can check it all out. While chatting, you can play the game and chat at the same time. Alright, version 1.1.0. This is a big milestone. Finally, all this new content is halfway released. Everybody gets to play it on Steam officially now. It's even on sale this weekend. If anybody's looking to pick up Songbringer, the game is on sale. You can save yourself $5. Paying US dollars. We take that down to 30 frames a second while we're streaming. I guess I'll keep the brightness at 5. This is a new feature where you can change the brightness. 5 is alright. I want to turn off, reset all my achievements though. Get any records today? That's good. Let's do this. Permadeath? I think. Yeah, permadeath will work. Let's do wizard. My default world, just to debug everything, make sure it's all good. Helps to it just helps to play the same world over and over and over. Just so, well, first of all, it's easy and fast to go through a whole run of the game. Second of all, it helps to kind of like verify, like, oh, okay, I remember that. Nothing's changed. You know, nothing should have changed, essentially, in this whole run. It should be the exact same run as it was in the 1.0 version. The only thing that's really changed is bug fixes, slight improvements and things like that. And now, of course, these new things where you have the charged attack, which is like changes the whole game. Having the charged attack from the get-go makes the whole game more interesting because you've got two choices for using the sword. You can swing the sword normally and just button mash, or you can hold down the sword button, charge up your attack, and attack a little bit more premeditated. And both of them have their advantages. Swinging your sword wildly and fastly can work actually for some bosses, or if you're fighting a single enemy, sometimes that's better. But then when you're in like a group of enemies, or you want to hit a bunch of enemies at once, of course the charge attack makes some more sense. I've even done some balancing to make sure that that is really balanced. I actually fought the same boss 3 times in a row with only the sword attack, and then fought the same boss again 3 times in a row with only the charge attack. And the charge attack has its advantages. And then I did that same thing again using a boss switch room where there's just full of like 40 different enemies. Fought all 40 of those enemies with just the sword, and then all 40 of those enemies with just the charge attack. And the charge attack works better in the crowded room, and the sword attack works better versus the boss. But when I averaged all those times together, they worked out to almost be exactly the same. So I'm like, okay, cool. The cooldown on the charge attack and versus the regular sword attack they kind of even themselves out if you compare their two different styles. So I don't think there's an actual advantage to just using the charge attack or just using the sword, which is exactly how I want it to be, because there should be a question in your mind as a player, like, which one's better? I don't know. Maybe it depends on the situation. Like, there should be a question in your mind, because that gives you power of choice. It shouldn't be obvious which one's better. So I'm glad there's a nice balance there. But I'll of course be paying attention to that on this run right here, just to make sure that this is nice and balanced and feeling good. So let's do this. There's even been some musical improvements in this version. There's better bass, the drums hit a bit better with the boss music, and the drums, and there's an alternate drumming for the floaty dungeon, so it's a little bit more interesting there. And the bass has been improved for Dungeon 1 and the floaty dungeon. This is all part of my soundtrack work. Kind of doing that in the my couple hours of at the end of each day. I'll go and do a little bit of work on the soundtrack. So that is on its way as well. So there'll be a soundtrack release in the near future. So the only thing that's left to do with the soundtrack is it's mostly bass work. It's mostly paying really close attention to the bass and the overall EQing and mixing of all the tracks, just to make sure they're all really good. And so some of the tracks are getting a little bit of slight improvements and that kind of stuff. It's kind of satisfying. It's really satisfying, actually, to tell you the truth, to get the soundtrack all ship-shape and ready to go. And then, another little slight improvement in this version is that the dungeons. Whoa, there's getting timings like crazy right here. The dungeons cycle through their root musical key. So, if you didn't know this about Songbringer, the music is slightly procedural in the sense that the melody changes a little bit depending on your world seed and your dungeon number. Before, though, the dungeon number influenced. I thought I did the math where the dungeon number would influence the musical key, and the musical keys would all be different. But what I was actually had done is I had made it random, so it was based on a random number in the which was deterministic. But anyways, the whole point was that before, all of the musical keys for the dungeons were kind of random. You could end up having, for example, Dungeon 1 having a musical key of C, Dungeon 2 having a musical key of C, Dungeon 3 having a musical key of C, because they're all just random. So I based it now on Dungeon 1 being the random one, and then Dungeon 2 being a fifth up from that. So it actually kind of uses harmonic mixing in a sense. Well, it's not like the two musics for the dungeons are going to be mixed together directly, unless you're taking a secret tunnel between two dungeons. So basically, now it uses harmonic mixing. So if you start off at C, you go up a fifth to what's a fifth from C? C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F. So you go from C to F. So and then it cycles around the whole circle of fifths, so that every dungeon increases a fifth, increases a fifth, increases a fifth. So every dungeon does have specifically unique musical key now. And that probably does not make much of a difference at all to anyone except for audiophiles, people that are really into music, but like myself. But yeah, that's kind of one neat thing. One significant difference to the charge attack versus about a week ago in all the debug versions is that there's now you can actually hold down the button right after you have to swing the sword once and then keep holding it to charge. But then if you let go of your charge and then hold down the button again right after that, you don't have to swing again in between those. See that? You didn't have to swing the sword again to charge up again, because I had held down the button. So that's one neat new feature. Makes using the charge attack a lot smoother. And I made sure to check that you can still beat the wall boss. The wall boss is like the standard. It's like if you can beat the wall boss with the charge attack, then the charge attack is doing about the same amount of damage as the regular sword. So yes, you can actually beat the wall boss with just the charge attack, but it's damn hard, I'll tell you that. It's a lot easier to beat the wall boss with just the plain old sword, because the charging up thing, like I was saying earlier, when you're fighting an enemy, when you're fighting a single enemy, it can be a little bit easier to use just the regular sword attack. When you're fighting a group of enemies, the charge attack tends to work a little bit better. I may, I'm excited to see how players might embrace the charge attack. Maybe there's some things I have missed, or there's some advantages that some people will find. I don't know. Sweet, 2 fighters. So I drew some new artwork for the ice dungeon. So these pillars and the dragon's head here are all covered in ice. It's really shiny at night though, because the moon is shining bright. Looks a little bit more like regular ice in the daytime. So after this, what's next? What's next is going to be another update. Actually, you know what? It's going to be probably, there's so much new content, it's probably going to be a free DLC. So it won't cost anybody anything, but it'll technically be a DLC, which you can just get for free. And when you have the DLC, it enables all this new content with the boss, and the Ring of Difficult, or Yale's Snare, the Cursed Ring, with all the new boss special attacks and all the increased difficulty of the game. If you're into that kind of thing, if you're a total masochist, or you're just someone that loves a challenge, whatever way you want to look at that coin. So yeah, that'll be my next thing I'm working on. An ice bolt right there. That's great. Good job, Jib. Yeah. Oh, another pretty significant change is this parry ability. For the last few weeks, I was always thinking the parry ability would be something you gained from beating the new boss and getting in the arena and all that. But it actually makes a lot more sense to put the parry ability in the game as you get it. So you can basically get you're probably going to find the parry ability in your world seed in one of the dungeons now. And I know that we're going to find it on this run in one of the dungeons for sure. It basically helps you fight, whoops, I shouldn't have done that. It helps you fight a few different bosses and mini-bosses. So yeah, if you're paying attention to the music, the drums are going to be hitting a little bit harder for this boss music than they used to. The kick is a lot, the kick and the bass are actually a lot more clear now. But I made sure that it doesn't override the sound effects from the game. Like the sword is at the same amount of volume as it always was. It's still one of the hardest bosses in the game. Just count with the third one. The third one's random. You never know who's just gonna do a third one. Oh, then that thing. Yeah. That segment took 6 minutes. Yeah, so now it's daytime. You can see that this this entrance is a little bit better than it used to be. Better looking. It's got this little icy. You can tell it's an ice dungeon, and it looks in my opinion, it looks better than it did before. A lot better. The reason it didn't look good before is because this statue up here it just looked too 2D. It still kind of looks 2D, but it looked way more 2D before, and the way it connected to the ground, it just looked like a billboard. So welcome everybody, whoever's watching this stream. If you're just joining, I'm working on playing through the new update for Songbringer with the charge attack, the sword parry ability, and the shirt armor. In fact, damn, I need to get the shirt armor. I'm in permadeath mode, so I can't die. So I'm gonna have to show you a secret. In fact, should I go do that now? Why not? I just got to teleport. You can warp right there. So, if you don't want to know the secret, stop watching for a second. If you do want to know a secret for how to get the shirt without dying, pay attention. I'll have you note that I've already exited this cave once before in this run. This is the second exit. Here's going to be the third exit from this cave. So the shirt armor decreases the damage that you take. Not by half. I think it decreases the damage you take by 1 or 2. Just like that. Remember 7? How you doing today? There's other ways to get the shirt too that involve dying a lot. The shirt is really meant for players that need a little bit of help. If you're dying a lot. What should we craft ice with, huh? The sword, top hat. I'll do the top hat. It's my favorite. It seems to be a favorite amongst many players of Songbringer to craft the ice with the top hat. Because it makes a lot of sense. And it makes it kind of like the original Zelda, where you can throw your boomerang and stun enemies. So if you noticed, I'm playing in permadeath mode. That's why there's a counter up in the top left, a timer, and that increases the speed of a few different things in Songbringer. One of them being how fast the droidsmith there crafts items for you. Another one being how fast doors open. And another one is what else is faster in permadeath mode. I think that's all. There's something else with dialogue. Oh yeah, you can skip a few different dialogues. So here you're seeing the charge attack becoming a lot more effective. Why are they going faster? Because I'm in permadeath mode. So permadeath mode is where, of course, if you die, your save slot is erased, right? regular mode, it's just like playing a regular action RPG where it saves your progress. You know, in a save slot, you can exit the game, come back, and continue your progress in that world. Permanent mode, it saves your progress, right? You can close the game and come back, but if you ever die, it deletes that save slot. So permanent mode, like I said, has those advantages where the doors open faster and all that kind of stuff. It also tracks your time, and also tracks your time between dungeons. So whenever I complete a dungeon, it'll flash the time in the top left and show me how much time elapsed for that dungeon. It seems like I'm at 30 frames a second. I've got it set at 30 frames a second only because I'm streaming right now and my computer is a wussy computer from 2013. It overheats like crazy. It's a MacBook Pro. It just loves to overheat. But I like it in general. It'd be nice to have a computer that could actually stream though and play games at 60 frames a second. That would be cool. Yeah, exactly, Member 7. It's an incentive for speedrunning to go in permanent mode. Yeah, exactly. So I kind of designed permanent mode not only for its like extra challenge, but also for speedrunning mode. It's really meant for that. However, there's also if you want to do speedruns, there is the skip all dialogue option, which is a great option. It's in your input settings, so you just go to input, turn on skip all dialogue, and that will automatically skip all the dialogue in the game, which really helps for speed runs. And that works in regular mode or permadeath mode. And then also, if you beat the game before, there's one more incentive for permanent mode. Permanent mode takes away around the very start of the game, that you start in this one area, and there's always a cave right there. And in regular mode, those like 4 screens right around the start of the game are covered in thickets, which require the sword for you to get past it. So it basically keeps newbies from wandering too far before they get the sword. However, if you play in permanent mode, those thickets are not there, so you can just go wherever the heck you want, because the game kind of assumes that if you're in permadeath mode, you know what you're doing, you know? So, but then if you beat the game once before, you get this item called the Victor's Emblem. I think I should have that. The Victor's Emblem does a couple things. One of them I won't tell you. It's kind of a secret. But one of them is that it takes away those thickets around the start screen. So if you have the Victor's Emblem, those thickets are removed, even in regular mode. And then another advantage of having the Victor's Emblem is that you can go back to the ship after a certain critical event has happened. But then the third thing that the Victor's Emblem does, I won't tell you. It's a secret. It's a secret to everybody. That's a Zelda 1 quote, which you guys probably already knew. If you're interested in Songbringer, and you haven't played the original Zelda, what are you doing? Play the original Zelda. You'll get where Songbringer takes most of its influences. Well, the third Zelda, Secret of Mana, Chrono Trigger, and games like that. Mystic Quest. Yeah, there's a lot of influence from the old 8-bit and 16-bit games. But Zelda 1. Zelda 1, so good. You know it? You haven't played it? I highly recommend it. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of difficult by today's standards. You don't think you can play it? Yeah, I hear you. But why is that? Why don't you think you can play it? I'm interested to hear what it's like from your psychological perspective. Wait a minute. Oh, I crafted the ghost sword with ice. Let's skip it. So normally you're supposed to hit those pillars and Jib goes out of the cave. We skip that event. Oops. Probably not that great in comparison to newer games, even new Zelda games. Oh, really? Oh my gosh. Well, that's a matter of perspective, I guess. But yeah, it was great in its time. Wow. Well, to tell you, okay, maybe my perspective can make a difference for you. Then I think Zelda 1 is the best. It's basically my favorite Zelda game. The reason being, all the subsequent Zelda games, actually not Zelda 2, the side-scrolling one, but all the three-quarters perspective Zeldas, they hold your hand, they make you do tutorials, they guide you, they give you maps, and all that. The first Zelda is the only one which hides its mystery, which like doesn't give you a map showing you where to go. It doesn't have any sort of guidance whatsoever. It lets you explore. And that was one of the main concepts for Songbringer, was to allow people to explore their world without beating them over the head with tutorials. So that, I think, is one of the most redeeming qualities of the original Zelda. And I don't mean to pick any bones or whatever, but there's definitely drawbacks. I'm not trying to convince you to play it because it has its drawbacks. The arts, kind of just rudimentary. The play style is a bit difficult to get, it's not a mystery anymore if you know the route, right? Yeah, that's true. But yeah, and it's also kind of clunky. The controls are kind of clunky. Like, you can only move up, down, left, and right. There's no diagonal movement. So that, and then your sword is like this little tiny thing which goes only in the one direction that you're fighting. So it's like, it can be really difficult to even hit enemies. Yeah, I hear you. If you've played newer Zeldas, the first, and then you go back to the first Zelda, it's definitely, I don't know, it can seem like a clunky, obtuse, old game, I guess. But for me, it was the first Zelda I played. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's more just nostalgia for me. But that, what you said about the mystery, that's also one of the reasons I made Songbringer the way it is like I wanted to make a game which could surprise me every time. So that's why there's the whole world seed system, where you enter your world seed at the beginning of Songbringer, and your whole world changes. Whatever world seed you enter, that's what world you're going to get. The whole layout of the overworld, the layout of the dungeons, the order of the items, the order of bosses even. It all changes depending on your world seed. Even the musical key of the dungeons. So that's kind of Songbringer in a nutshell. Something that can surprise you each time you play it if you want to do a different world seed. And something that doesn't hold your hand. Doesn't force you to do tutorials. Lets you explore. Ultima 7, yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Yep. There's definitely bad things in older games and good things. Um so member 7, what is like what's one of your what's your favorite Zelda game? Oh wow, I got a lot of diamonds. I don't need that upgrade. That stash of diamonds there. Skipping it. You've only played the 3D console Zelda games? Yeah? Which one's your favorite amongst those? Let's get the Playa Dust this time. Just realized that in this world, see, Wizard, it's really easy to get the Playa Dust. You think they're all pretty good? Sometimes like one more than another. Skyward Sword's kind of bad. I heard that. Two Zelda's are good in an entirely different way. Right, yeah. I totally agree. I stopped. So I played most of the first 3D Zeldas. I played what's the first 3D Zelda on Nintendo 64? Ocarina of Time, I think. And then I played the Wind Waker, yeah. And then I played the next one too, the Majora's Mask. And then I played one more or something like that, I don't know. But then there was a point where I stopped playing the Zeldas that were 3D because I was like, there's too much tutorial. It was the one where they made you learn how to fish. And I actually got so frustrated trying to learn how to fish, and it kept starting me over on some stupid fishing exercise that I never played that game, and I stopped playing 3D Zeldas altogether at that point. I hated that fishing tutorial. But I guess it's one of the reasons I made Songbringer. It's like, down with tutorials. I hate being treated like I don't know anything. Right? It's kind of like when a game insults your intelligence. Let's get this Sarira. Just for the hell of it. Right? There's so many tutorials. So, member 7, what else do you really enjoy playing these, like, lately? And beyond just, you know, Zelda games and that kind of stuff, like, what's your favorite games these days? love getting lost. Me too. And you don't mean metaphorically. Me neither. I know, you can't get lost. Biter Kid, what's up, man? How you doing? It's been a minute since we chatted. I know, that was one of the things about Hyper Light Drifter that I really feel that could have been better with that game, is if they didn't give you a map. Or wait, they do give you the option to get to whether to pick up the map or not, but you don't know that it's the map that you're about to get, so like it's so easy to accidentally pick up the map. I don't know. I just like games where they let you explore and then you build your own map. Yeah, I've been streaming it this time because I'm in a different country. I have left my homeland. Goodbye, West Coast of the United States. I've been going through some crazy life changes, my friend. I won't tell you my sad story, but basically I'm in Thailand right now, and that part of the story is actually kind of cool. It's neat here, I like it. It's got its pros and cons though, just like anything. But yeah, I'm currently living in Thailand, sort of, for the next few months. And that's why I'm in a completely different time zone, and these streams are happening right now. Whatever time now is for you. What time is it now for me? It's like about 1 p.m. I think for me. But how you been, Biter Kid? What's up? Late night. You're good? Yeah, I'm good too, man. Things are going well. No, I'm not working on a new game yet. I'm working on still working on this. There's this update I just released for Songbringer last night. This is now on Steam, where you've got this charged attack. So you can charge up your sword, let it go. It's super cool. It makes the whole game more interesting because you got 2 ways you can use the sword. And then I'm working on another update coming out for Songbringer with all this new content. So there's a new boss, there's this like new items, there's this one item which gives special attacks to all the bosses. And then there's 2 more things I gotta do for Songbringer before I can start another new video game. One of them is I have to finish the soundtrack, and the other one is I have to finish the iOS version. So after those 2 things are finished, after the update, actually it's going to be a free DLC. So after the DLC and the soundtrack and the iOS version, then I can kind of close the book on Songbringer and start the next project. What's up, Monadic Vine? Can't wait for Songbringer 2 with 3D graphics. Thank you for saying congrats on the release of this update. The Switch version. Many, many people have asked for the Switch version. All I can tell you is I want it to, and there is a chance. I hope I can say that. So if you're just joining the stream, I'm actually playing through this new update with the charged attack, parry ability, the shirt armor, and the fairy drones. Would be cool on the 3DS as well. 3DS, definitely would. that. You don't even have a Switch? You got the PS4 version? Okay, so the PS4 version is coming out with all this new content that's currently in the Steam version, including the charge attack and all the updates that have come before it. So there's the 1.01 update with combat accuracy, and then 1.02, 3, 4, and 5. All those are getting rolled into one update for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and it's coming soon. I don't have an exact date, but soon I will have an exact date for you. And so your PS4 version will get updated and with all this cool new stuff. You play only on PS4? Cool. Yeah. I think we get the parry ability from this next dungeon, so this is going to be cool. It's really cool to get the parry ability because it adds another way you can use your sword. So you charge up your attack, and if you run into an enemy with a charge, it will release your charge as a parry, which blocks all damage. It's really interesting and actually makes some boss fights way more doable, because you could block attacks before by just standing still and using your shield, which is that purple thing which comes up after a second. But it was kind of counterintuitive, right? Standing still, I mean, it reinforces the message of the game to stand still, and sometimes there's, sometimes the only way to get through something is not to be active, but to be inactive. But like as a player, it's not something you're gonna do, especially in the middle of a boss fight, is to stand still. You're probably gonna be swinging your sword wildly, moving around and all that kind of stuff. So what's great about having the parry ability is you can charge up your sword and then and still move around and all that stuff, and yet block an attack. So it adds another way to use your sword, and is quite useful in boss battles, especially to block attacks that you wouldn't have been able to. To not play a game makes no sense. I hear you there. I got some new games I want to play. I backed this project on Kickstarter called Crossing Souls. It's a game, sort of an adventure game, pixel art. Can't wait to play that. Maybe I'll play it this weekend. Oh, by standing still, it makes no sense. Right, yeah, exactly. It makes no intuitive sense to stand still, especially while you're fighting enemies like crazy, But it works. That's how Songbringer works. If you want to block attacks, you can just stand still. If you have the shield, or the upgraded shield, or the double upgraded shield. Yeah, Crossing Souls, you saw that? Yeah. Does look great, right? Yep, I backed it on Kickstarter, so I've got a copy of it. I haven't played it yet, but it's top on my list right now. I've always loved adventure games. I love pixel art. Like, here's one example though where using the shield is quite intuitive. If you just set down a bomb and then allow your shield to absorb the blast. That's one area where it makes sense. So this is the fire boss. Hitting him with ice is especially effective. So I'm trying to hit him with my ghost sword. You wish you were more creative with the art? I'll tell you something, my friend. I used to wish I was more creative with art too. And then Songbringer was my first pixel art project. and I realized I could draw. I was like, wow, I can do this. But it took years of practice first. I had been building up my pixel art skills for a couple years before I started Songbringer. My pixel art skills got a lot better throughout the project of Songbringer, especially by listening to feedback on these live streams and a couple influential people, one of them being Lighter Thief. Lighter Thief would come on and say, hey, why don't you try this with your art, or maybe try these different colors and stuff like that, and really helped me gain, especially helped me gain the perspective. Like, one of the tricky things about creating art for this perspective is that basically the easiest perspective to make games for is the side scroller, the platformer, the side scrolling platformer. That is the easiest art style of all because you're only looking at one angle of everything. In this game, this is called an orthographic perspective, or some people call it a 3/4 3D perspective. This, you have to see, not only do you see the front of things, but you see the top of things too, and then that makes the whole perspective a bit trickier. It's hard to get the depth and the perspective of everything just right. And you can see in some of Songbringer's art, still it doesn't quite look right because my art skills got better and better. The other problem, which you want to draw, but you have no idea how it should look like, so you don't know what exactly you should draw. Oh, yeah? Huh. I don't know if it helps or not, but one thing I did when learning art was I actually spent an entire year just watching YouTube videos of other people doing speed art. Well, it's more like time-lapse art, but the phrase I used was speed pixel art. I just typed that into YouTube and found so many different time-lapse pixel art drawings. And by watching all those, it helped me build up that same thing, like what should I draw, or how exactly should I draw it. I mean, it gave me sort of like an intuitive sense for the process of making art. So now I've got the parry ability. You can see I can charge up an attack, walk into enemies, and block them, deflect the damage they would have caused. So this is going to come in really handy, especially for the final boss. And a couple more bosses coming up. Yeah, because it sounds to me like you want to learn, and my belief on when you have a desire for something, you automatically have the potential to succeed with it, right? So my belief is that because you want to, you sort of have this background desire almost to learn art, you have the ability to do it, man. You can be a successful, awesome artist. It's that inkling inside of you. You have this intuition that's saying, I kind of want to learn art. It would be cool if I did know art, right? Just that tiny little inkling, I think, is enough. That's what you need, more than anything. You've tried some pixels? There you go. Nice. You've already tried. Cool. It just gets easier with time, man. The more you do it, the more you make it, the more YouTube videos you watch, the more you get better at color and perspective and creating shapes. Oh, sometimes it really helps. You need some more cacti. Cacti definitely help bring on that inspiration. Sometimes another thing that really helps when you're learning art is to just take other people's art as a reference, right? Just look at somebody else's art and try and draw it yourself. Don't copy it. Don't actually don't trace it, but keep a piece of someone else's art right next to what you're creating, and use that as a reference for trying to draw your own kind of in a similar way. You know, like reference art really helps, because that's something for me too. It's like, how the heck am I supposed to draw a gargoyle? I have no idea. But then if I look at somebody else's art of a gargoyle, it really helps. And one thing about it is, like, even professional artists do that all the time. The best artists in the world use reference art all the time. They're referencing body images or real life or other people's art or whatever to make their art. And that helped me a lot, because I was like, wait a minute, if professional artists out there who are making a living with their art are using reference images on every single one of their projects, then it's not like it's something bad. I always thought that it was a bad thing to use reference art, but it's not. So I'm fighting this boss with only the sword's regular attack, because it is more difficult to beat it with the charge attack, but it is possible. I verified that this is definitely possible to beat this boss with only the charge attack. And also, it's entirely possible to beat this boss with just the top hat, but only if you don't have the sword. Nice, man. It's good chatting with you. Oh, all right. Oh, he draws sci-fi pixels? Cool. I'll have to look him up. Kuroke's. I really like this one. I just realized this shirt is making this whole game way easier. So I'm like, wait a minute, that boss, usually I have like way less health and I have to use cacti all the time. But it's because I have this shirt. The shirt armor protecting me. I like Anton Kudin. He's working on Massive Galaxy, huh? Cool. Let me look this guy up right now, so I can get a link. Sweet. Nice. Yeah, Massive Galaxy. Cool. Oh, it's an adventure, but a branching storyline, turn-based combat, and exploration of the galaxy? Sweet. Wow. This looks pretty cool. Looks like an ambitious concept, too. Oops. Sweet. Now we got Chip as well. Getting towards the end of the game. If anybody is not wanting this game spoiled, probably want to stop paying attention to this video. There's going to be a pretty big spoiler in the one in the next dungeon. Not this next dungeon, but the next dungeon after that. I just remembered this other artist who's working on a game called Steeler. Love his art. I forget his art name though. He's like got this name with it's all like beat speed numbers instead of letters and stuff. Steeler is also leet speak, so it's spelled with like a 5. But Steeler, the game, looks amazing. I haven't seen many updates from it, so I'm worried about it. I wonder if they're still working on it. If anybody has any details on this Steeler game, let me know. Steeler, it's called Steeler, but it's spelled with the... Let me look this up, actually. This is some amazing art here, too. Steeler is spelled with like a 5. There it is. 5734. Here's a good video, I think, of it. Yeah, see, in this last video is from 2012. Yeah, so this is why I always forget how to I forget about this game because or how to find it because how the hell do you spell this? How do you remember that? 5734L3R. I don't know what the news or the scoop is on that game though, if it's still being made or what, but god damn, they released a trailer for it that just got me so excited. All of the art they've made is amazing. Yeah, doesn't it? Oh, another artist you should follow, if maybe you're already following him, but Anton Kudin, who's making Megasphere. This guy also. Wait a minute here. Yeah, Anton Kudin. He also has live streams and he does his art live and all that. Trouble here getting through this part. Oh, panic. Get you. kind of breezing through this dungeon because I have a lot of advanced items. This is one of the easier, older dungeons in my world. I should say the world wizard. World seed wizard. Let's warp and get the poison. That crafted up. Nice, you managed to reduce your work time? Cool. Get to work on some games some more? Sweet, man. That is amazing, great news. Yeah. You can, man. You can make something cool. So I'm fighting the ward boss right now, Murmurah. Normally this boss is one of the lengthiest boss fights you have because she goes away and comes back and you hit her while she's in a brief window here. But because I have so many powerful items at this point, it's pretty easy. I basically have gone back like 3 dungeons to beat this dungeon because it just makes more sense with the route of how this world goes for making this like a little speed run. A brief explanation of how do you generate the world in Songbringer because it does not look like the tiles. It is tiles. Yeah. The whole world of Songbringer is generated from your world seed, of course. So you start with the world seed. It's 6 letters long. Those 6 letters give you, basically those 6 letters are converted into a 32-bit integer, which seeds a random deterministic number generator. So the entire world could be the exact same every time because all of its random numbers are seeded with the same exact world seed. So, and then every one of these screens here, like what you're looking at right here, is actually 20 by 10 tiles. So I'm standing on a none tile right here. This over here is a mountain tile. There's a tree tile right there. This is a pillar tile. This right here is a gargoyle tile. And yeah, that's the whole world of Songbringer actually is tiles. And all those tiles are chosen using algorithms, right? And patterns and algorithms create everything. So there's a lot of different phases to Songbringer's world generation. There's a phase where it creates the entire overworld and creates where each dungeon should be and the approximate sort of layout, or there's actually it's a maze generator, so it uses a maze generator to what you're looking at right here. This whole map of the overworld is actually a maze that gets generated, and the dungeons are typically placed at dead ends, stuff like that. So there's the maze generator, which generates the broad overworld, and then there's actual algorithms which determine what each one of these screens should be like. So after the maze gets generated, then it gets filled up with tiles on each screen. It looks like a hand-drawn image. Thanks, man. That's a really big compliment. Yeah, and then there's also a separate dungeon generator. So the dungeons are generated differently. They use a dungeon generator which has a lock and key system. So it's a bit different. It doesn't use a maze generator. It has to generate a dungeon that you could get through using the right keys, right? And it has to place the right keys in the right places so you can actually get through each dungeon. So that that's different. But yeah, once it's each one of these screens actually is just a bunch of tiles that gets generated with an algorithm. The algorithms are a bit flexible though. So like when you're on the overworld, if there's a river, for example, running through a certain area, it can kind of flexibly change the algorithm for how that area might look, depending on that river, or maybe there's a lake next to it which changes it. So yeah. Some of the screens though on Songbringer are not flexible. For example, right here on the ship, this ship is always the same. So yeah, and then Tom Coxon's articles, right. If anybody's watching this on YouTube and you're looking at how to generate your own worlds using like random numbers and all that stuff, Tom Coxon, that's Coxon, has written some great articles about how to generate overworlds and generate dungeons with the lock and key system. You can just search for Tom Coxon Meta Zelda, I believe is the term, or overworld generator or dungeon generator, that kind of stuff. Anything with Tom Coxon in it, you'll find his stuff and his articles. Yeah. The visuals are just like, I mean, it took a while for me to kind of get the hang of it too. But there's a lot of like, what's the word? There's a lot of optical illusions going on. Like for example, this abyss right here, it looks like an abyss, right? But it's actually just a bunch of sky tiles. They're all, to the game, they're all at the same Z level, but because it just uses a trick where it makes each one of the tiles look a little bit deeper, it looks like it's 3D. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff in Songbringer where it's like it's not actually 3D, but it uses whatever tricks it can to make you think it's 3D. Do I need anything else? Let's just do this. Let's fight this without getting. I could get Jib's shield and get Bell powered up, but whatever. Oh yeah, well, thanks for that, but it's definitely one of those things where if you're making a game like this, you gotta learn all those tricks of the trade, those optical illusions to make things look better than they actually are. You managed to create a generator for a game you're messing with? Cool, dude, that's great. That's awesome. I mean, that's one step in the right direction. And Songbringer's generators, God, I think I worked on those Songbringer's now this is the 4th year making Songbringer. But yeah, like just working on generators and basic systems and things like that was the entire first 2 years almost. Like the 3rd year was mostly content, but yeah, the generators were a lot of the time spent on Songbringer. Just making sure that the whole world's like played well. While they're still randomly generated, it's like it was a difficult thing. And some people still hate it. they hate on it like crazy. They'll be like, "Oh, Songbringer sucks because it's procedural." But I find that most people that say that haven't played it. So there's some definite procedural generated haters out there. They're like, the only kind of good games are custom, handmade games. And I see their points. You know, there's a lot of crappy procedurally generated stuff, and sometimes there's too much hype around procedural generation. Some good points. But, you know, I don't think hate is deserved just because a game is procedural. What's that, my friend? Sweet. Huge maps without frame drops. Right on, man. Cool, dude. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hold on, what time is it here? Okay, 15 minutes. I'm making sure this one bug is not still fixed. If you stood right up here in this screen and Jib died, well, the spoiler alert. Like I said a little bit earlier, 10 minutes ago, this is definitely the spoiler alert part. But anyways, if this happens right here, and you're standing up here on the top of the screen, it would soft lock the game. Glad that's still fixed. Not that it wouldn't be, but it's good that it is. Good to confirm things, you know? First 3 or 4 times you have to fix something, it's good to go like back and just confirm it's still fixed. Oh, I've got armor, that's right. Why is this so much easier? This is my first time playing the whole game with the shirt. It really makes the whole game easier. That's exactly what some players need in this game. If that's you will find this armor, guaranteed. All you gotta do is die a few times. So if you're just tuning in, I am playing Songbringer, playing through the new update. This is out on Steam right now. Got this charge attack where you can charge up your sword and release it for this powerful strike, which is especially good at multiple enemies. And you got the parry ability where you can hold down your sword and bring up a charge as well, and then run into enemies and parry their attacks, parry the damage you would have normally gotten from hitting them. You've got the shirt armor, which I'm currently wearing, which protects you from some harm. And there's also another item called the ferret drones, which are in a secret location, but they help you find 100% items by showing you on your map where everything is that you have not attained yet. So if you're looking for 100% items, definitely get the ferret drones, launch them ferret drones, and your map will be lit up with all the positions of your unattained items. One thing I should verify, if I stand here, I should not get the rain. Cool. Nice. That's coming later. Oh, I already got this? Okay. Alright, here we go, final dungeon. This is probably going to be super easy with this shirt armor. God, one of bonus. There is God mode, but it's only the debug version. Yeah. Yep, it's a fun thing to show. It's so helpful for debugging the game, though. Use that all the time. And invincible mode is also really helpful for debugging the game. I didn't even lose health. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, if you want to make the game easier, just find this shirt armor. If you want to make the game more difficult, there's a new item coming out pretty soon. The free DLC called Yale's Snare. It's a cursed ring, which makes all enemies in the game more difficult, including the bosses, giving them special attacks. All the new bosses have new special attacks. However, it increases your final score of the game. So if you're looking to get a higher score, grab that ring. It's in the beta version right now if you want to play the Steam beta. Like an upgraded shield item and the shirt. Practically invincible. So the parry item helps to fight Keel here, as well as the final boss. So Keel's got a parry as well, and that always kind of worked against you, because you wouldn't be doing damage. But now you've got the ability to parry yourself if you want to. You stand there, charge up, let it hit me, boom, blocks all damage. So strategically, it makes for a very interesting item to have that parry ability. Stuck in this corner. Oh hey! Taking some damage here, even with the shirt. Stock up on some cactuses. The secret stash. Final boss, here we go. So, you can block a couple of his attacks now, so I'm gonna charge up my fist. You can parry that thing. You can also parry that attack. It really helps to charge up your sword whenever he flies away. Just let him land, and that damage wave he does. Block it. Parry. Super helpful. Did the game release make my life better? Whoa. That's a crazy question for me to answer. because I got a sad story to tell from that. Like, I lost a relationship from it. So I worked so hard on Songbringer. Well, this wasn't the main reason, but one of the reasons why is I neglected so much of the rest of my life. You know, I didn't keep up with friendships, important relationships. I didn't do fun stuff as much as I did because I worked 7 days a week on Songbringer. It's something I'll never do again. I'll never work 7 days a week again on a game because it's just, you know, it leads to neglecting other areas of life. So it made my life temporarily much worse. Right after releasing Songbringer, I lost not lost, but like, you know, a relationship ended for me that was a very important relationship in my life. Yeah, so I learned my lesson though, and ultimately, yes, it's been a great thing for my life because it's caused me to, you know, any kind of crisis puts you in a state where you either have to, you know, overcome that crisis or else just, you know, wallow or whatever, give up. So I decided to overcome it, and it's been 6 months now. But yeah, I'm doing a lot better now. So yeah, there's my lesson. One lesson. I guess my last video game, I learned a big important lesson, you know, because that game was a complete flop. It didn't make any money, and I worked like 2 years on it and spent racked up all this credit card debt. So my lesson there was you gotta market from day one. Especially for an indie, you gotta do your own marketing, and also you gotta prove that your game is worth your time. I think a good way to do that is with either crowdfunding or alpha funding. Basically, don't get so attached to your video game that you think it's worth it, even when people aren't willing to buy it. You know what I mean? Up front. But anyways, and then the other lesson I learned was don't work 7 days a week. But some good things have come from it. I'll definitely be able to make the next video game. You know, I'm not rich or anything making Songbringer. It's been sort of like a minor success, you could say, financially. But a minor success in today's game market is kind of like a medium success in the market 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm very, you know, happy and content with how Songbringer turned out, and I'm, you know, just excited to be finishing these updates and finish the soundtrack, do the iOS version, and then start the next game. Oh, thanks, man. You know, it's all right. It's all right. I've healed mostly at this point. So here we are. Beat your ending game sequences and stuff for playing through Songbringer with the charge attack and the shirt item and the parry ability. Everything was cool. I basically just played it here to make sure that I didn't break anything and that the version I uploaded to Steam is all good. You know, I do this every time I release an update on Steam. I make sure to play through the whole game just to make sure everything's legit. There's nothing new that's broken, stuff like that. Occasionally, I do notice stuff that needs to be fixed, and then I say, mulligan, and fix it. But luckily, there was nothing I even noted playing this game through today. So there's no new bugs. That's great. Alright. There you have it. Thanks, Spider Kid. At least one? Yeah, no, you know what? That is actually something that I'm quite excited by and appreciative of and thankful for. You know, like I have a lot of gratitude in my heart for the few people that I've reached that have said like, Songbringer was one of my favorite games I've ever played. Definitely one of my top favorite games of 2017. I haven't gotten like overwhelming amounts of people say that, but I've gotten a few people that have really made their lives happy for making this game, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm happy that their life is better because of Songbringer a little bit. You know, it's definitely my kind of game too. You know, I love this kind of game. I love the fact that it doesn't hold your hand, and that you could play a different world each time with a different world scene and all that. And I love the Zelda games. The Zelda structured video game, or you could say the old school action RPG with the top-down 3D perspective, because there's many other games like Zelda. Not exactly like Zelda, but there's many other games that kind of have this same, you know, perspective and all that. You hate when the game's over? I know, right? Yeah, when the game's over and you've played a game that isn't procedural, you're like, wait a minute, next time I play this, it's gonna be the same game, same world. I already know where everything is. I tried to play Hyper Light Drifter a second time, and I'm like, I just can't do it. Hyper Light Drifter is an amazing game. It's super duper awesome artwork, and it's so inspiring, and it's really great. There's so much calling me back to play it again, but I already know where everything is, and, you know? I've heard some good things about, what are some other like Zelda-y sort of games that have come out recently? Secrets of Grindia? Or Grindia? It's gotta be Grindia. That's a sort of Zelda-y game. There were several other ones too released in late 2017. There's Below coming out as well. That looks awesome. It's an action RPG, but it's 3D. I can't wait for Below. What the heck is up with Below? It's supposed to come out last year. Yes, alright, that's a good feeling. Everything is verified, the game is all good, there's no bugs that I noticed. There's no significant, really, difference between this version of the game and the 1.0 version of the game. It's just that you have these new items which make the game more interesting, but overall. Into the Breach, yeah, what's that? Tactical RPG, huh? By the makers of FTL. Oh, it's coming out in a couple days. Cool, I'll watch that one. Looks fun. Let's check out. What's up with Below? Last night? Is it out? This can't be out yet. It's not out. Can't be out. Cappy Games delays below indefinitely? Oh, what? Man, better come out. So what else we got? Oh, Moonlighter. Yeah, I've seen Moonlighter. I played Moonlighter a little bit. What's up, Cool Steel? Sword of Ditto. Oh, right. I think I've seen this one too. Oh yeah, this one. This one's already on my. Yeah, this one's on my wish list. It's coming out this year. Yeah. Yeah, this looks cool. Totally. What else do you say? Last Night. The soul of a cinematic platform with the heart of a sci-fi thriller. It's cool. Nowhere Prophet? This is gorgeous. Oh, it's a card deck building game. Cool. Alright, y'all. Well, I gotta get on with my day. I'm gonna close this stream up. Yeah, so just to sum it all up, I'm really happy with this new release. It's out on Steam already to the main version, so you can go play this on Steam, all this new content with the charge attack, the shirt armor, the parry ability, the ferret drones and all that. There's an update out on Steam with like it details all this. You gotta go to sleep. Yeah, cool. So anyways, thanks for watching this video. Thank you, Fighter Kid. Appreciate it, kudos. And yeah, we'll catch you all on the next stream. I'll be developing Songbringer even further. It's something, I'm sure. So thanks again for watching.